From Manila to the globe, this is World Newsfeed, bringing you the biggest stories shaping our times. Good morning, I'm Raine Musñgi. Let's dive into the headlines making a global impact. Mohammed al-Bashir is taking charge of Syria as caretaker prime minister. With the backing of the former rebels who toppled President Bashar al-Assad 3 days ago, Syria's new caretaker prime minister held a meeting on Tuesday in Damascus with his caretaker government. Al-Bashir said he would lead the interim authority until March 1st. The new caretaker prime minister ran the rebel-led Salvation government before the 12-day lightning offensive swept into Damascus. Syria's new government has told business leaders it will adopt a free market model and integrate the country into the global economy. That's a major shift from decades of corrupt state control. Prominent Syrian businessmen welcomed signals that the economy would be open to investment, vital to rebuilding from widespread devastation after 13 years of civil war. The head of the biggest Syrian business lobby, Bassel Hamwi, told Reuters on Tuesday in Damascus he had been informed by Syria's interim economy minister, Bassel Abdulaziz, that the stifling customs system would be done away with, fulfilling a major demand of traders and industrialists. Stabilizing and opening up the economy are seen by economists as crucial to encouraging desperately needed fresh investment and the potential return of millions of Syrians, including many from the educated middle class who fled the war.
It will be a free market system based on competition. Every person registered in the chamber can import the goods he wants, of course, and put it on the market within a specific exchange system. The exchange rate is not clear as it depends on the supply and demand. There are no exchange companies today that determine the exchange rate. At the present time, any merchant can sell in any currency, until it is organized and there are available exchange companies, and a clear exchange rate. The currency platform should be cancelled, in my opinion, and the Minister of Economy assured us that yesterday. This is a demand of all merchants and industrialists. They, Syrian businessmen abroad, will be the most important contributor to the development of Syria, with the expertise they will bring back with them.
An Israeli military spokesperson denied that Israeli forces had penetrated into Syrian territory beyond the buffer zone. That's after Israeli deployments along the ceasefire line between Syria and Israeli-occupied Golan Heights were seen moving into the UN-monitored buffer zone on Tuesday. Syrian sources said the incursion had reached up to 25 kilometers from the capital, Damascus. A reporter from the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights from Monday also said Israel carried out attacks on Latakia port, where an airstrike caused a huge blast with fire and smoke rising from multiple points at the port. On Monday night, 2 Syrian security sources had said that Israeli planes had bombed Syrian army air bases in Qamishli.
This happened at night. We went out after hearing the sounds and we saw a fire there. Then we realized that Israel had struck these locations. We didn't get a break from Turkey, and now Israel came. Israel has been striking the area for a while now.
However, the Turkish security source said that terrorist group YPG had started to spread the lie that Qamishli airport was targeted by Israel. Well, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said he authorized its air forces to bomb strategically military capabilities left by the Syrian army to, quote, avoid them falling into the hands of jihadists. Netanyahu added that if Iranian weapons were transferred through Syria to Hezbollah, or if Israel were attacked, that they would respond forcefully. Israeli media reported that the Air Force had carried out as many as 250 sorties as jets struck a string of targets across Syria since the weekend. The operation, which appears to have been one of the biggest in years, aimed to ensure Syrian military equipment including combat aircraft, missiles, and chemical weapons, did not fall into rebel hands.
We have no intention of interfering in Syria's internal affairs. However, we do intend to do what is necessary for our security. As such, I approve the Air Force bombing of strategic military capabilities left by the Syrian military so that they will not fall into the hands of the jihadists. This is similar to what the British Air Force did when it bombed the fleet of the Vichy regime, which was cooperating with the Nazis, so that it would not fall into the hands of Nazis. We want to have relations with the new regime in Syria, but if this regime allows Iran to re-establish itself in Syria, or allows the transfer of Iranian weapons, or weapons of any kind, to Hezbollah, or attacks us, we will respond forcefully and we will exact a heavy price. What happened to the previous regime will also happen to this one.
Meanwhile, Turkey also carried out operations in Syria. Turkey's intelligence agency destroyed 12 trucks loaded with missiles and heavy weapons, 2 tanks and ammunition stores being transported by the Kurdish YPG militia in northeast Syria. The YPG is central to the Kurdish Syrian forces allied with the U.S. coalition against Islamic State militants. The Turkish source said the airstrikes by the Turkish MIT intelligence agency was carried out after its field agents detected that the YPG seized the military supplies and took them to its own warehouses. The United Nations is against any violation of the territorial integrity of Syria. When asked about the strikes by Israel on its neighbor, UN officials said Tuesday the world body is against any types of attacks that encroach on the territory of Syria.
Extremely important that we don't see any action from any international actor that destroys the possibility for this transformation in Syria to take place. On Israel, I am not in contact with the Israelis, but of course the United Nations in New York, they are. And, the peacekeepers on the Golan Heights are, of course, in daily contact with the Israelis. And of course the message from New York is the same, that what we're seeing is a violation of the disengagement agreement in 1974. So we will obviously, together with our colleagues in New York, follow this extremely closely in the hours and days ahead.
We stand against any violation of the territorial integrity of Syria. We're against these types of attacks. I think this is a turning point for Syria. It should not be used by its neighbors to encroach on the territory of Syria. It should be used by all those in the region and beyond to support the Syrian people so they can choose their own path, so they can work on a transition that is Syrian-led, that is Syrian-owned, that is inclusive, where all the minorities, the myriads of minorities that are in Syria feel safe and feel they are part of the Syrian nation.
A White House security official says American troops will remain in Syria to combat terrorist group Islamic State. There are around 900 U.S. soldiers operating in Syria, according to the U.S. Department of Defense. Tens of thousands of people rushed to Cignal prison after the fall of Assad. Eyewitnesses' video showed people gathering in Syria's Cignal prison, chanting and checking documents for any sign of long-detained relatives. Cignal is a place notorious for its horrors and long known as the slaughterhouse. The Associated Press reports people opened the heavy iron doors lining the hallways to find cells inside empty. With sledgehammers, shovels, and drills, men pounded holes in floors and walls looking for what they believed were secret dungeons or chasing sounds they thought they heard from underground. They found nothing. Insurgents freed dozens of people from the Cignal military prison on Sunday when Damascus fell, and since then, almost no one has been found. Kurdish Syrian mother Tarfa Daoud has spent over a decade searching for answers about her 4 sons who disappeared more than 12 years ago after being detained by Syrian forces during a raid in Homs in 2012.
Until this day, we know nothing about them, till 2015, when a foreign journalist, I do not know from which country or even know his name, has filmed Cignal as prisoners and distributed these photos, and we found photos of our children among those prisoners. We identified them, then we knew that our children are in Cignal prison. I went and took a lawyer with me. I paid 1 million liras for 5 minutes, only to see them. The lawyer told me that they secretly got those young men from the prison. I was inside the prison and I didn't see them prior, I swear. They said that they brought them to a room outside the prison. They let me in. I saw them for 5 minutes. 5 minutes for 1 million liras. They said that you only check on each other and go, without any talk. They let me got in. I saw them. That was in 2016. And from this time, I never saw them at all.
Rights groups have reported mass executions and torture in Syria's prisons. The United States said in 2017 it had identified a new crematorium at Cignal for hanged prisoners. The U.S. is also searching for American journalist Austin Tice, who also went missing during a reporting trip in Syria in 2012. Now we're taking a breather. When we come back, news from Africa and Asia. Keep it here on your World Newsfeed, only on BNC.
Magandang araw, Pilipinas! Sa bawat isyu may iba't ibang anggulo. Sa bawat storya may iba't ibang kwento.
Himayin natin ang bawat sulok at bawat kanto mula sa iba't ibang perspektibo na madaling maintindihan ng karaniwang mamamayan.
Every Saturday lang mga magdadag to 11:30 a.m. Kaya huwag kayong papahuli mga kabayan. Manatiling may pakialam sa mga isyu sa ating bansa kung kaya samahan niyo kami. Dito lang sa Cuatro Cantos!
Hello and welcome to Follow the Money. I'm Raine Musñgi. Join us as we explore the tools and insights you need to jumpstart your financial journey. The crypto market climbed over $800 billion. Tech giant Alibaba has announced plans to issue notes. Investors are anticipating a significant downward move for the cryptocurrency. Swift is adding a new chapter to her record-breaking year.
Follow the Money, 10:30 a.m.
Keep it here on BNC, the Bilyonaryo News Channel, always on top.
For the past 2 days, there have been many positive feedback. We have many guests. A lot of walk-ins reach more than 1 million in sales. This is very good news, of course, for our exhibitors. And there are many interests now. Of course, it's not only the agri products that we feature, but also the programs and activities that we do.
In the world of business, expansion is inevitable.
So I was a serial dater.
Not just a serial entrepreneur.
Yes.
You need fresh perspectives.
Different perspectives, different capabilities.
The sense of fulfillment, the sense of accomplishment. It's like you gave birth.
The relationships we have, how we treat our people, for me, that is the essence.
I'm Ces Orenia Drilon at ito ang Usapang Bilyonaryo.
Welcome back to World Newsfeed. More than 100 people were killed in an army airstrike in Darfur Monday in one of the deadliest days of fighting in Sudan's devastating war. The pro-democracy Al-Fashir Resistance Committee said more than 8 barrel bombs hit Kabkabiya town market in North Darfur. Several people were found bloodied and apparently dead strewn around the market. People were being carried from the wreckage of stores and fruit stalls, and others praying for those who were killed. The army has stepped up airstrikes in half of the country that the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces controls, while the RSF had staged deadly raids on villages and intense artillery strikes. Activists said the fighting has extended for almost 20 months with no end in sight. Yemen's Iran-aligned Houthis claim to have targeted 3 supply ships and 2 U.S. destroyers accompanying them in the Gulf of Aden. A military spokesman for the Houthis said on Tuesday the ships were targeted after having previously engaged in aggression against Yemen. The spokesman highlighted the operation as part of the Houthis' commitment to backing Palestinian groups. The Iran-aligned Houthi movement that controls northern Yemen has launched attacks mainly on global shipping for more than a year in solidarity with Palestinians in the war between Israel and Hamas.
نفذت القوات البحرية وسلاح الجو المسير.
The naval forces, along with the drone air force and missile force, carried out a significant military operation targeting 3 American supply ships after they left the port of Djibouti. They had previously engaged in aggression against Yemen. Additionally, 2 American destroyers accompanying the supply ships in the Gulf of Aden were also targeted. The operation was carried out using a number of missiles and drones, achieving its objectives successfully by the grace of Allah. This targeting of these ships and destroyers marks the second instance within 10 days. In another context, the drone air force conducted 2 military operations targeting military objectives in the areas of Jaffa and Ashkelon in occupied Palestine this morning using 2 drones. These operations also achieved their objectives successfully by the grace of Allah. The Yemeni Houthi armed forces, with Allah's help, continue to carry out their supportive operations for the Palestinian resistance and their defensive operations for the beloved Yemen until the aggression on the Gaza Strip is stopped and the blockade is lifted.
Back in the Middle East, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu took to the stand for the first time in a long-running corruption trial that will likely force him to juggle between the courtroom and the war room for weeks. Charged with bribery, fraud, and breach of trust, Netanyahu will testify 3 times a week despite the Gaza war and possible new threats posed by wider turmoil in the Middle East, including neighboring Syria. Israel's longest-serving leader, who also faces an international arrest warrant for alleged war crimes in the Gaza war, vowed to knock down corruption allegations against him. Netanyahu was indicted in 2019 in 3 cases involving gifts from millionaire friends and for allegedly seeking regulatory favors for media tycoons in return for favorable coverage. He denies any wrongdoing. Brazilians are optimistic on the recovery of President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva after emergency brain surgery. Silva is currently recovering in the intensive care unit at Sao Paulo's Syrian-Lebanese hospital after surgery to drain a brain bleed linked to a fall in October. Doctors reported his condition as stable, ruling out any brain injury or neurological complications. But while most believe that Silva's health crisis will not affect the current government, views were split on his impact on his potential 2026 presidential run. The suspect in the killing of United Health CEO Brian Thompson showed defiance as he arrived into a court hearing Tuesday. Luigi Mangione struggled briefly with police and appeared to shout as he was led from a police vehicle into the building for the hearing on his extradition to New York.
Luigi, that's completely out of touch and an insult to the intelligence of the American people.
Mangione right there shouting in the direction of journalists and yelling, completely out of touch and an insult to the intelligence of the American people. It was not clear to what he was referring. His defense lawyer says Mangione intends to fight his extradition to New York to face murder charges from Pennsylvania. Mangione's refusal to waive extradition on Tuesday triggers a formal process that could last weeks, though he is unlikely to succeed in preventing his eventual transfer. His family said they are shocked and devastated by his arrest. He faces gun and forgery charges in Pennsylvania and was arraigned in Altoona on Monday. An arrest warrant for Mangione filed on Tuesday in Manhattan Criminal Court listed 1 count of second-degree murder, 3 counts of criminal possession of a weapon, and 1 count of criminal possession of a forged instrument. Now, while the gunman's motive remains unclear, police have said Thompson, the CEO of one of the largest health insurers in the U.S., was deliberately targeted. Mangione suffered from chronic back pain that limited his daily life. According to several news accounts, his profile on X shows a background image of an X-ray with what appears to be screws and plates inserted in the lower back. Residents in Malibu, California were evacuated due to a rapidly intensifying wildfire burning northwest of Los Angeles. It posed threat to homes, knocked out power, and closed roads in the beach community. The brush fire blaze, called the Franklin Fire, grew overnight from 2 hectares to 737 hectares along steep terrain, spreading south over the Pacific Coast Highway in the picturesque coastal city of about 10,000 people. In a news conference, Los Angeles County Fire Chief Anthony Maroney said that the fire, which has not yet been contained, destroyed a small number of homes but has not caused any injuries or deaths, while the fire's cause remains unknown. The National Weather Service issued a red flag warning as wind gusts could reach 129 kilometers per hour, signaling an increased risk of fire danger. An order for people to shelter in place was issued overnight for Pepperdine University in Malibu, forcing some students to evacuate to the school's commons and library. American pop singer Halsey is embarking on a new role as she confirms a project with film director Ty West. Halsey is set to write and produce a dark comedy series, Bloodlust, for Amazon Prime Video. It is still unclear what the premise of the show will be, but it's expected to showcase a compelling blend of Halsey's creative storytelling and West's visionary direction in the horror genre. Halsey and West previously worked together on a slasher threequel, Maxine. Meanwhile, Hollywood reports say Chris Evans may be returning to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Evans is said to be starring alongside co-Avenger Robert Downey Jr. in Avengers: Doomsday. Entertainment outlet The Wrap first reported that the Captain America star would be joining the cast in some capacity, though the nature of the role is still unknown. Variety, Hollywood Reporter, and Deadline also reported Evans' MCU comeback, but didn't reveal further details. Marvel Entertainment has yet to respond to these reports. There is something for Way Back Wednesday. We're hoping you're not feeling like a Scrooge for Christmas as we take you to London for a look at the Charles Dickens Museum. Authentic Victorian-style decorations are up in the house where the famous author once lived. Among his famous works, the classic novel A Christmas Carol, the museum curator says they want to give visitors a taste of what life might have been like for the 19th century English novelist and his family.
So it means the museum looks really special at the moment because we've decorated the historic house where Charles Dickens lived in traditional Victorian Christmas style. So what that means is there's greenery around, you can have a few additional smells as you go into rooms to give the impression of the household getting ready for Christmas, whether that's sort of a punch in the dining room, a nice warming liquid, or the cakes being prepared downstairs in the kitchen. And then, of course, here in the drawing room, we've got the Christmas tree behind me and some decorations around.
Meanwhile, an ongoing festival in Hong Kong is dedicated to some adorable fur balls. Around 2,500 intricate panda sculptures will be showcased throughout the city. For those in Hong Kong, admission is free as the festival runs until December 26th. That's all for now. Thank you so much for joining us. Catch up with us again tomorrow at 10 when we bring you the world in 30 minutes only on World Newsfeed. Follow the Money comes next. Keep it here on the Bilyonaryo News Channel, always on top.